Chinese OPEC, potential green embargo. This is Ronald Stein with us today. Ronald is a columnist, author, and energy advisor, and he's founder of the company called PTS. He is in California now. Welcome to the podcast, Ronald Stein.
Armando, glad to be aboard.
Thank you. And this is me only to show that for you, my LinkedIn page. Ronald, before we start with the points we agreed to talk today, I would like to share two slides. The first one is this one, showing that extraction of critical minerals is done by several different countries around the world. But refining minerals for batteries and renewable energies is almost entirely dominated by China. See the red bars, the
Yes,
right side.
that's right.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Total control.
And total control. And the second, not different from the first, is related to technology and supply chains for equipment. So we have mining, processing, and technology and supply chains for equipment. For renewables are
Yes.
totally dominated by China. This is the black bars in this picture. So my first point for you, are we moving from OPEC or oil OPEC in the past to China OPEC for minerals at that time?
Well, definitely. If you remember back in 1973, well, you and I were there. some of the viewers may not have been, but 50 years ago, the OPEC, the embargo happened. They cut the valve, shut down the valve, and we were totally reliant on OPEC for our crude oil to run our economy. Well, 50 years have passed, and the politicians' big movement is we're going to get rid of fossil fuels, and so we're shutting off oil and we want to go green. Well, we've kind of reversed it now. Instead of OPEC controlling our country, China controls our country, because a lot of the lithium and cobalt and manganese, all the exotic minerals may not be in China, but China has total control of it. Most of the cobalt's in Brazil, Africa, and they've got total control of all that mining. And so it is scary that they have. We want to go green with EVs, wind, and solar, but there's only one supplier.
Yeah,
and
high dependence on one country only.
Yes,
and the relationship is not the best one at this time.
Relationship? There is no relationship.
They fight every time.
Every time.
They fight every time. So it's dangerous. Really a challenge for the United States, and increasing the dependence on these solutions of renewables, turbines and solar panels. All of this equipment made in China.
Exactly. And, the reason, first of all, most of those exotic minerals and metals are not in the United States. If they were, we probably couldn't mine for them because we have environmental laws here in the United States. And we have labor laws here in the United States. And it would cost a fortune. In fact, I don't think the environmentalists would allow mining for lithium. Lithium is strip mining. It is dirty. It makes coal mining look clean, and it just wouldn't happen. So we just let other countries do it, and that's another issue. Not only are we reliant on China, we're encouraging the exploitation of people who have yellow, brown, and black skin because there's no labor laws, and the environmental degradation over there is okay because we can't see it. And I think it's unethical and immoral, and we're just encouraging them to keep doing it. And there's incentives to buy an EV. Well, the incentive to buy an EV is basically financial encouragement for China and Africa and parts of Brazil to continue exploiting your people. They have yellow, brown, and black skin. Continued environmental degradation of your land. We're going green here in the United States.
That's right. But Ronald, China has monopolized some supply chains. Not talking about renewables, but all of them, chips, electronics, everything. But because they are competent, they
Oh, yes.
have. That's the point. And United States or the West as a whole, they are not competent enough to compete with China.
Well, I think we're competent enough, but you just can't make anything here anymore. You have all the labor laws, and it's cheaper. We'll just make it somewhere else. And China's willing to do that.
Not my backyards. Let you say in
That's right.
one
The
of
old
your
not
last
yes,
articles. Yeah,
yes.
not my backyard. Do far from me the dirty job and bring to me the final products.
And the thing that's also discouraging is, we want to keep our emissions down here, and we're encouraging everybody. We want to go zero emissions, and yet emissions over there, they're okay. We don't count them.
But the atmosphere is one only.
Well, I joke that California Governor Newsom only breathes California air. Anything within the borders, he breathes. Outside, he doesn't breathe that. That's okay.
But does he know about this reality, or he doesn't know?
Reality cannot be part of this conversation.
For
No,
instance, subsidies. Sorry.
there's no conversations. Joe Biden the same way. There's, they don't see it. Like I say, 1973 was a turning. I thought it was a turning point, for the United States, for the world. Not only for not the United States to be dependent on somebody for so much. Every country should be, balancing it. And, there's no silver bullet answers, and no one's going to provide 100% of everything, but you want to disperse your risk. And instead of having OPEC be the total source of oil, okay, well, that ain't happening. Now we've got China as the total source of green. I mean, all they've done is change color from black oil to green, and
It's funny. It's funny. Let me ask you about subsidies, because EVs at this time are receiving strong, huge subsidies, not
yes.
only from federal government, but incentives to manufacturers. So, but it cannot be eternal.
No, there's got to be a bottom to the pit, because you really got to let the market drive it, because the EVs have been subsidized heavily, and because the profile of an EV owner is highly educated, usually 1 or 2 degrees, high income, multi-car families, homeowners, and the elites have bought them. Armando, the elites will continue to buy them. But Armando, we've run out of elites. Now we're getting down to the common folk. And the thing that's really scary is the EVs really haven't had an impact on fuel consumption, because before the pandemic hit in 2019, the world consumption of gasoline hit a peak. That was in 2019. Well, since 2019, there's now about 30 million EVs in the entire world. And the pandemic hit the world, ironically, at the right time, because we had the technology with computers and iPads, et cetera, to work virtually. Prior to 2019, it would have really hurt the economy. But since 2019, there's millions, hundreds of millions of people that are not going to work as often as they used to. Maybe 1 day a week, 2, 3 days a week. So you got 30 million EVs on the road, hundreds of millions of people not driving as much, going to work. And gasoline consumption hit a peak last year. primarily because EVs aren't driving anywhere. They're second vehicles.
Mhm.
If people go somewhere, they bring the workhorse vehicle out, which is the gasoline car. And so, I've got a bunch of neighbors that have EVs and they're only used for shopping. It's the second vehicle. And, it's not impacting the gasoline consumption. And so, it's not reducing, quote, those emissions, but they're making these cars and, when you're forcing the economy, that's a tough way to do it.
Ronald, 3, 4, or 5 decades ago, when the United States, the West of the world, decided to outsource manufacturing process to Asia, China for the first option, it was not possible to predict that in the future we would have a problem like we are having today.
You're right. I don't think it was because at that time, it was cost effective to have it made in China or some other country, because the labor laws and the environmental laws here are so stringent. It's very expensive to make it here. The good news is we're the most environmentally controlled location in the world. The bad news is it costs a lot of money to manufacture here, so it's easy to outsource. But that, and then in combination with the fact we want to get rid of crude oil, well, now, we're shutting down exploration here. We're basically, forcing refineries to shut down. The United States has some of the cleanest refineries in the world for their emissions, but even that, they're under a lot of pressure. And so, like I say, they're a supplier. The demand is coming from the public because people say, well, fossil fuels is debatable, causing climate change and global warming. And well, if that's the case, stop using them. I mean, there's no reason to have crude oil. Like say, it's just black tar unless you can manufacture it.
But Ronald, in the past, before China, Japan was the wave, was a huge exporter to the United States and for everywhere,
Yes,
video recorders and everything. And this wave passed and went almost to zero,
right.
almost. And do you expect that China's situation will be the same or no? It will be longer. Will be longer than Japan.
It'll be a lot longer, much longer, because the long range plans of China, like you say, they're building coal-fired power plants weekly. They're building, I think, 88 new refineries, bigger and larger and more efficient. So they'll be the ones, depending on OPEC, for oil, but they'll be manufacturing for the world, and they've got a lot of people, a lot of cheap labor, and like I say, with very little environmental laws, they can do anything they want.
But do you see that the world, the entire world, is watching China dominance, and this can be something in the future that can reverse, can because it's impossible to be dependent on China for everywhere and for everything.
I don't think the United States is watching China per se. We keep giving more and more control to them, and so it's kind of like everybody's drinking the same Kool-Aid. And I like I say, they're going to be more and more the source, the supplier
Display.
to meet our demands.
That's a very good point. So, do you expect to have a embargo for green resource from China to the West or
It,
the United
you know,
States?
if I don't think there's a political movement to have an embargo, but when you have, in effect, one supplier, they'll control the price,
That's right.
and they don't have to cut off, the green services they're providing. But when you got one supplier and everybody else is demanding what they have,
Yeah.
they'll control that.
They
You know,
can't
it's
find everything.
yeah, it's in economics, supply demand equation.
Yeah,
We have the
yeah. Well,
demand and one supplier.
it's not a good rule to have one supplier. No type of business is good.
Right. I would love to
Imagine,
have I would love to have a business where I was the only business and everybody was coming to me. Yeah, that's the
that's right.
situation we're
Yeah.
in.
Stuart sending us, oh, thank you, Stuart. Welcome. Give good questions and tricky questions to Ronald, Stuart, please. Yeah, but so I'm not sure about the United States. Of course, you know, of course, much better than me. But the country as a whole, the people, population, are they concerned about this topic, or they do not know nothing about these issues?
I think they know nothing
Oh my God!
because if they did, I think they would, be concerned. It's that's the scary part. We've been so brainwashed to go green that yeah, we're going to get rid of oil. And again, it gets back to the misuse of the word energy
Yeah,
because the message is coming out of Washington D.C. and California is wind and solar energy is going to replace fossil fuels. Can't happen. Total impossibility because wind and solar does something different than oil. Wind and solar generates electricity. Oil never generates electricity. Coal and natural gas is used for electricity, but oil isn't. As we mentioned, oil is useless. It's black tar unless you
sure.
can beat it and heat it and crack it at the refineries and make the products. And you know, so we're comparing apples and oranges. We basically want to have everything run by electricity. Well, where are the products? There's 6 ways to generate electricity. You got wind and solar, obviously, which is in the press, and you got hydro, nuclear, coal, and natural gas. There's 6 ways to generate electricity. Every way to generate electricity is dependent on oil. It goes back to the light bulb, Armando. A light bulb was made with oil. And now you got, all the computers and the electronics, insulation, all the gadgets behind the door are all made with products made from oil. And if you get rid of oil, well, duh, you get rid of electricity. And people don't recognize the fact that, vehicles, from gasoline vehicles, Teslas, they're 100% made with the products manufactured from oil. From the tires, insulation, upholstery, the computers, everything. And, circuit boards is all made, from oil. And so you get rid of oil, you get rid of vehicles.
But there's a good point in this speech that you are bringing to us, the geopolitical challenge, because renewable equipment, electronics, EVs, everything coming from Asia, China
Yes.
for specifically, and this dependence, I cannot understand the government of United States are not taking care of these issues, not making something strong to move this situation. I cannot understand this.
Well, I can understand a couple individuals like, Joe Biden and California Governor Newsom, but I keep looking back. What about the Department of Energy? That's their goal. That's their job. Don't let this happen, this
But
dependency shift.
but
And they've
say
got
small entity, no, small entity.
14,000 people. In 50 years, they've grown to 14,000 people. Their budget this year is $52 billion. That's more than most countries can
Countries the
generate.
world. Yeah, no doubt.
And, all 14,000 are silent. To me, their silence is deafening.
Yeah.
Nobody's saying anything. And so I'm not sure why we have 14,000 people working there.
Oh my God, 14,000 people.
We could say $52 billion in our budget.
Oh my God, it's really big. But what type of people work in these institutions?
I,
Scientists or?
I don't know. I don't know what. I mean, it must be a bunch of I don't know. I'll refrain from giving my opinion.
Do you see this tension with China and the US and Europe? Europe is extremely angry with China too. Uh, it can be attenuated for the future. What's your expectation? How do you see this future of relationships?
Well, I'm encouraging, like I say, conversation because I would really like to educate people that, not only is it, a reincarnation of the embargo of OPEC, but we're doing it with unethical standards. I mean, when you see the mining over there, when we wrote the book, Clean Energy Exploitations, Todd Roy and I, we debated a long time before we picked the
Show
cover.
us, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
put
the
one
cover of the book.
disclaimer.
The cover of the book is basically from Africa, with a military guy with an Uzi overseeing a family mining for cobalt. Kids, 6 years old, mining by hand. And, I don't mind the effort to go green, but geez, let's do it ethically. I mean, there should be international standards, for labor, not just, like California has stringent requirements, probably more stringent than the other 49 states. But, on labor, these people count. I mean, granted, the fact that, of the 8 billion people on this earth, 80%, that's a big number. That's more than 6 billion people. They're
Mhm.
living on less than $10 a day. Does that give us in the wealthy countries the right to treat them with inferior standards?
Mhm.
You know, our people have labor laws, environmental laws, but they're not making anything, so it's okay for them to, be exploited. I think it's unethical and immoral.
It's you bring to me a thought. Let's see your opinion, because the U.S. has a tremendous dependence on China to electronics to renewable equipment. At the inverse, is there dependence in China from the U.S. Let's see, design, technical design, technologies? Are, how do you see this?
No, like I say, it's just a matter of, they got carte blanche to, they got good engineers, we got good engineers.
Uh-huh.
But once you go from engineering to design and into construction,
Hmm.
they got no barriers for that. And I keep talking about this unethical and immoral situation. And people say, well, I'm a hypocrite because I've got an iPhone. Well, the iPhone, my iPhone has lithium in it. And, one Tesla battery can make 4,000 of these. The truck EV battery is 16,000 pounds and it has enough lithium in there. Are you sitting down? You're sitting down to make 64,000 cell phones. And, like I say, there's no clean, easy solution. Someone's going to benefit and someone's not going to benefit. But, when you take a look at, well, just the EV batteries, I mean, to make one Tesla battery, you got to move 500,000 pounds of dirt, for getting lithium and cobalt and all the dirt.
Hmm.
And then for one truck battery, which is 16,000 pounds, you got to move 8 million pounds of earth to get the different exotic minerals and metals to build that battery for one truck battery.
And and not talking about water, the amount
No.
of water used. That's
Oh, yeah.
very
Yeah.
big.
The water contamination. I mean, yeah, like you say, it's over there, so it's okay. And that is, like you say, that's something that should be apparent because not only are we giving sole control to China, we're giving sole control. Do anything you want with your labor and do anything you want with the environment.
Ronald, how Americans see the technology difference between the US, it's a high technology, the most important country in the world in terms of technology, and China. China is becoming something, let's say, challenging to the US in terms of technology, or it's far from that?
I think they'll be exceeding the United States because, like I said, they're the ones that are doing all the design, building. I mean, they're doing coal plants, and it's the latest technology. Their refineries will be the latest and the greatest. They'll be bigger and very efficient. They're the ones, investigating the nuclear way for electricity. The small modular reactors. So they have, a lot of income that we're financing to finance that, education. So, the fact that they're doing it there, they basically have the engineering and they'll attract the engineering and the talent to do it. But, if you don't build anything here, everybody will be on welfare here. We're doing a good job of that in California.
Let's go to my part. You can come with other thoughts, of course, but my final point is the following: is a question for you
Okay.
about probability. What's the probability of embargo from China to the US for minerals and materials and equipment? Do you
I,
see something related to oil embargo in the past? Something big as that?
I, it could, but it would help. It would hurt them financially. But they're in a position, as we talked previously in this conversation, becoming the sole supplier. Ironically, they don't have to give an embargo. All they could do is crank up the price, and
Price.
do you have a choice? It's the only
No
source,
choice.
So, yeah, I think they could do it financially, and it would be devastating to the economy because most I don't know about Brazil, but in the United States, most people live paycheck to paycheck. It's
Brazil
scary.
worse. Brazil is much worse than that.
It's scary how few people have a reserve of
Yeah.
funds, and when you
Only a very small part of the population has this capacity.
right, that's the elite. Those are the ones buying the EVs. But yeah,
Good one.
the regular folks, yeah, they're tough. And
So the chance of embargo is low, but the chance to make price higher and higher, and to this is the point. This is the point
yeah,
you see.
that's an easy economic decision because that's supply and demand. I mean, that's down to basic, economics in school, supply and demand. And if you got one supplier and the whole world is demanding your product, you're in a great position.
And you do not see a counter strategy to stop this situation.
No, I think if anything, China might get some competition from other developing countries. But, the United States being the wealthy country, we have all the demand and we have here no supply.
No supply.
It could be China, we could be dependent on China, we could depend on Africa, Pakistan,
Yeah,
wherever.
everywhere.
They've got the supply.
Yeah, I got embargo, Chinese embargo, but high prices changes for us.
And the
Very
cost of
good.
living is killing everybody now. And the fact that most people have a huge debt from car loans and credit card loans and school loans,
Yeah,
and everything is going up faster than their compensation is going up, and they're living paycheck to paycheck. So a lot of people are one paycheck away from going homeless.
my
If you lose your job, it's going to take weeks, months to get another job. If you get another job, and
to become homeless.
once you join the homeless rank, it's tough to get back into the working force. So yeah, I've seen that happen here in California. Our homeless population is exploding.
Exploding. Philadelphia too.
Yes, and the thing it's tough here is we've got a very good climate, and it's a temperate climate. And so you're not faced with, the cold winters and the hot summers
Yeah. Yeah.
because you don't want to be homeless in 12 feet of snow.
Yeah, that's right. Oh
I
my
don't, I
God.
don't think, I don't think Alaska has a homeless problem because of the weather.
No, there's no problem related
They come to
to
California.
climate. Ronald Stein, was a great conversation today. Thank you so much. It
Thank
was a
you,
pleasure for
Armando.
me.
Let's have conversations with the rest of the world.
Let's be enthusiastic to talk more with people, specifically for politicians that need to talk more with us.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Armando.
Thank you.